I'm hard to love.
So welcome everyone to the very exciting launch of a fabulous book by a wonderful lady and a great friend of mine, Simone Milasas, and not here, Brendon Watt. This is Relationship. Are you sure you want one?
Thank you. It's a question.
It is a question, and it's a book that hopefully will leave you in question for the rest of your life. So I've had the pleasure of actually hearing what you've been saying and writing as this book got written, and it was such a wonderful journey to see you both go through. So for me, I would like to know, like,
You've been around for a while.
I've been around.
You've known us for a long time, yeah.
Yes, and so I've seen the relationship behind the book.
Behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes.
Not in the bedroom, just behind the scenes.
I was not there. You say I was not there. So why write this book?
Well, Brendon Watt and myself, we travel around the world doing classes and seminars, etc., and working with Access Consciousness. And one of the questions we always got asked was about relationship.
Yeah.
It's like so many people would ask us, you know, how we're creating a relationship, what tools we're using, etc. And one of the things I'm going to say is, for 8 years, Brendon and myself were in a relationship, and we used the tools of Access Consciousness. We would not be where we are today if we hadn't used the tools. And sometimes it's quite confronting when you use these tools, because you want everything to go your own way. Like, most people want everything to go their own way. That's not how relationship works. Relationship should be about a contribution. So we had so many people asking us questions about how we created our relationship. So then we did a class on it and thought, let's put it into a book. So it's quite confronting. It's quite vulnerable. There's a lot of stories that we tell about each other that we're like, oh, why not? It's like, what if there was nothing to hide? So we tell a lot of stories about how we created it, and it's like some funny antidotes, hopefully to, you know, create some more ease for you, so that you can create, if you're going to create a relationship, create a good one. You don't have to have one, but if you're going to create one, create a great one.
And I love, like, what a great start to the beginning of this book. So you've actually got a quote by Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, here, and it says, "Don't look for what will make you happy. Be happy just for the fun of it."
Yep. Simple, huh?
Right? but that's what this book is, and it has been for me reading it, and for so many of the people that have read it around the world, is that this is not designed to be a complicated manual.
No.
Or a how-to.
It's designed to be fun. It's designed to make you laugh. Yeah.
I mean, even looking at the cover, like,
yeah,
it's a comic. It's designed to make you go, what's actually going on here for me? And so one of the things that I wanted us to look into here is, you know, your first chapter is, I expected to be single forever. Mm-hmm. So how did you end up in a relationship for 8 years if you thought you were going to be single forever?
Good question. I was definitely one of those people who looked at relationship and I couldn't see a good one around me. Like, my parents didn't have like this, you know, great glorious relationship that I was like, oh, I must have that. It's like, and I couldn't see anyone around me that had a great one. So my point of view was, why would you do one? Why would you have a relationship if you couldn't have something good? Like, it wasn't this contribution to each other. So I decided, I went to answer and I went to conclusion that I actually wouldn't be in a relationship. I wouldn't choose to have a relationship. And it's what I call like the no choice universe. You know, say if you're going to be a vegetarian, which I know there's a lot of vegetarians out here in India, but if you're going to be a vegetarian and every day you say, I'm a vegetarian, what if instead, because you've just created this no choice universe, what if instead, I'm not saying you have to go eat meat, but you woke up every day and went, oh, I prefer not to eat meat. Okay, so it becomes a choice. And what I was doing is going, I don't do relationship. I don't do it, I'm not going to do it. And I had created this no choice universe rather than every day waking up and looking at, okay, so does this work for me today? Would I like to create something? And when I realized I had this no choice universe, that's the moment that I went, you know what, I'm limiting myself. So how many of you are limiting yourself by creating a no choice universe in any area of your life? So then I made the demand that if something showed up that was of a contribution to me, then I could choose it. But before, I was like, no, I'm not choosing it. Yeah, not doing it, absolutely not. Which is so conclusion, so filled with, answer and limitations rather than the question of, all right, so if something shows up that's going to be a contribution, I could choose it.
So then, how did Brendon in a relationship show up?
Well, I actually met him at an Access Consciousness class. and actually, how this occurred, I was in Sydney, Australia, and I was having a conversation with Gary Douglas, and it's one of the tools that we talk about in the relationship done different class as well. And I was saying to him that I was attracted to this certain guy in the class, and I was like, I want to, have sex with this guy. And Gary looked at me and he went, why do you want to have sex with this guy? And I went, oh, because blah, 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 all my reasons and justifications. And Gary said, he's an asshole. And I was like, yeah, he's lovely, he's awesome, And anyway, Gary being Gary and me being me, we started having this conversation about it. And what we got to was, I was looking at anyone who judged me and my body and didn't want to have sex with me was what you would call a winner. Someone that was like, yes, if I can get them, then I've won, and I'm sure nobody else has done this. And he said to me, why don't you, he said, what about this person or this person or this person? They would love to have sex with you. And I was like, no. And I was like, and he went, why not? And I was like, well, they're like losers. And he was like, how are they losers? And what we got to was, if anyone actually desired me or desired to have sex with me, I put them in this loser category. And then, so we realized I was creating this winner category, this loser category. You can see how I'm in the computation, right? Yeah, not at all. So this winner and this loser. And then he said, so what's this person and this person and this one? And I was like, oh, they're just like, like no counts. He was like, what's a no count? And I was like, well, someone who's not here and they're not here. And actually, I have two friends of mine who, when they heard this story, what they did, they were very smart, and this is about, 6 years ago, they looked around the room and literally went, who's a no count? And they looked around the room and the girl went over to the guy and said, do you want to go get a drink? And they're still together today. They looked around the room and went, who's the no count? Like, who's someone that you've decided is a no count? So that's your homework if you want to do it. Just look around and see who's a no count and go ask them for a drink. Go have a coffee, a tea, or a glass of wine or something. So anyway, Gary actually said to me, you should hook up with Brendon Watt. And I said, why? And I thought he was nice. He was
nice guy.
He was cute. He was whatever. You're a nice guy. And he said, because you'll find out what it's like to be with someone who's kind, caring, and nurturing. And he was in that no count category. So of course I did my homework because I'm a good girl. And then 8 years, we spent 8 years together. So that's how it got created. Right from the very beginning, the seed of consciousness was with using the Access Consciousness tools by Gary Douglas.
Which are in this book.
Yes, they are.
Yes, they are. And so this is amazing. I've loved reading this book because it's everything that I've seen you guys experience on paper for everyone, not to read as entertainment, but to be able to take on what would work for them from this and to use these tools to create something greater for themselves, which I know is what you and Brendon are about. You desire everyone to have something greater if they would like to choose it.
We do, definitely.
And so for me, this book is one of the guidebooks about some of the sticky topics in relationship. You've got one in here which is literally called Who's Paying?
Yeah.
Which I'm sure is not a topic in anyone else's relationship. Because it's one of the things that we tend to use to lock ourselves up the most. So what were some of the tools or things that you recall that you'd like to use?
Well, we had an unusual relationship as well as I was, still am, that hasn't changed, but 11 years older than Brendon. He had a kid, a dog, had all this, baggage that came along as well. And it's not, it wasn't sort of this is my dream man. It's he was also hugely in debt, which I didn't find out until we bought our first house. And then he said to me, oh, by the way, I'm about $200,000 in debt. And I was like, isn't that something you tell someone before you buy a house with them? And he looked at me and he went, oh, I didn't think about it. And I was like, okay. So we actually had to deal with his debt together. And I was earning a lot more money than what he was earning. And, you know, society, this reality, everything says the man is supposed to go and make money and look after the family, etc. Okay? And the woman is meant to stay at home and look after the kids and cook and clean, etc. and all of that. So what I would like to ask is, how many of you women, does that sound like fun? Or how many of you women want to go out and conquer the world? Yeah, so nearly every single person in the room, a woman, put their hand up. And then there's a lot of men also who, that's not what they enjoy either, going out and being the breadwinner and looking after everyone. A lot of men are great nesters. It's like they actually like to stay at home and create this nest. So we sort of flipped a lot of things as well. And I would be the one, you know, traveling around and doing most of the work and earning a lot of the money. But Brendon would stay at home, and he was like, he would cook these amazing meals. Like, he was in the, you know, top 100 for MasterChef in Australia. Like, he's a fabulous cook. So I would be there with my computer and my glass of wine, and Brendon would be, you know, cooking dinner and looking after me and contributing in a different way. And we also did all these renovations on our house, and he was the one that took care of it all and made sure everything was okay. So what you want to look for as well in a great relationship is, these are the three things you need, okay? Make sure they're good in bed, literally. Important. And then the second thing is, let them do whatever the hell they want, and they should let you be able to do whatever you desire, okay? And then number three is contribute financially. And contribute financially, like I said, doesn't necessarily mean both, you know, putting in, you know, a paycheck equivalent and putting it into the same bank account. It could be that one of them, male or female, is going out and earning the majority of the money, but the other person is a contribution to you being able to do that and be that. So what if it wasn't about who's paying, as in, you know, it has to be this way, this reality says, what if you could actually create it yourself? And as long as it's honoring for both of you, say, choose that.
And what a different way to create a relationship.
It is.
Hugely different.
Yes, it is. Because a lot of people have a projection about relationship. A lot, you know?
Yes.
And the expectations of what it should be. It's like, how many of your, you know, your family project and expect at you of what you should be in relationship, of what you should do in relationship, rather than question you and allow you to create whatever it is you desire.
So maybe this book can be your new family to empower you.
Yes,
So.
we've got you.
We do.
We've got your back. Brendon and I have got your back. Relationship. Are you sure you want one?
Well, one of the things that you mentioned in this when you were talking about the money piece was the contribution. And that's actually been a topic that we've been coming up a lot with in Access Consciousness recently. And I just flipped open to a page where Brendon has said, be kind to yourself if you go back to your old ways, as I periodically did, which I thought was fun. But what contribution were you choosing for each other and creating?
I'm going to say one of the greatest gifts that we were for each other and still are. And the thing is, like, we were together for 8 years, and, you know, we did all this media and that, and they were saying, oh, so you think you're relationship experts? No, we don't. It's like, we've just been there, done that. We've chosen really bad relationships, like really bad. And then we've also chosen great relationships. And now we are uncreating our relationship just as good as what we created it. So I'm going to say, when we were in relationship, and also as we've chosen to uncreate the relationship, it's been a constant place of honoring of each other and not judging what the other person is choosing, being an allowance of what the other person is choosing. And like, we've never had a fight, ever. Never had a fight, never had an argument. And
That's
someone,
amazing.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it? And someone said to me, a family member of mine said, you guys are just weird. And I was like, we're weird because we haven't fought? It's like, why would you think that relationship is built around, you know, fighting and arguing?
What would you like to choose?
Yeah. So we never had a fight, not even when we broke up, like broke the relationship up, we still haven't fought. It was like, it was always a question, always an honoring of like, what's going to work for him, what's going to work for me, and we're both willing to have that and be that together.
I love that. That's cool. You said just before, being an allowance of each other. How do you do that?
How do you be an allowance of each other?
Yeah.
You just choose it.
You choose
Say,
it.
yeah, and like, don't judge the other person for something that they're choosing. Like, let me give you an example. If there was early on in our relationship, and I know I was talking about this today in class as well, is that I was, I wake up happy and wake up creating. Morning is my best time you can get me. And I was, in the house and I'm creating and, talking to people and blah, 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 working on different projects. And Brendon was, depressed and he was being sad. And a great tool for that is, who does this belong to? But he wouldn't use it. So also he wasn't using that tool, but I wasn't getting cranky at him for not using that tool. It was like being an allowance. I would ask him, okay, so is there anything up? Can I do something for you? No, I'm fine. Okay, cool. Leave him.
Got it.
And then go about my day. And then he eventually said to me, will you stop being so happy? I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, do you know how hard it is to live in a house with someone who walks around and you're happy all the time and creating, and I'm trying to be sad and depressed? And when he said that, we both started laughing. He was like, God, that sounds insane. And I was like, maybe it is insane. But I was in allowance of what he was choosing. I wasn't every day. And I see so many women do this too. They try and fix the man that they're with. He's not asking to be fixed. He's not asking to be trained. If you want to train someone, get a puppy, okay? Like, you have to allow them to be them. And men and women function in a very different way too. It's like a lot of the times men will like to, like play video games or, read a newspaper or read a book or watch movies or just sit there watching TV for a while to process whatever it is that they're changing and what they're going through. They don't want to share. Men aren't like, hey, can I share with you today for hours on end? That's women. Women like to share.
Yeah.
So if you're a woman and you want to share, get a girlfriend and share with your girlfriend. One of the most fearful things in the world for a man to hear is, can we talk? Can we chat? And the man's like, holy shit, what's up? What did I do wrong? Exactly. Yeah, so you've got to recognize, just because you're choosing to be together, it doesn't mean if you're a man and a woman, I mean, of course you've got woman and woman relationships and man and man.
Yes.
If you're a man and a woman, recognize who that person is and be in allowance of what they're choosing. And when they don't desire to share, I see so many times that a woman will take it personally and they start to go, oh my God, what did I do wrong? Did I do something wrong? Is it my fault? No, it's not your fault. The man just requires a little bit of space. Hence the saying man cave. You guys have all heard of man cave, And when we moved into the house that we bought, there was this room that we weren't quite sure what to do with it. And I was thinking in the back of my head, I could make a nice office with that, And then, we were looking at different things, maybe for, my stepson, that he could do something. And then I also realized that at that time too, Brendon really required his space. And I said, what if you have a man cave? And it blew his paradigm. Because his previous relationship, if he had suggested having a man cave, she would have just lost it and thought it was against her, that you need to have time away from me, you need to do this. And it's like, no, you need to give people space.
Yes.
So we actually did create a man cave for him.
Nice.
And he spent so little time there, like 5 minutes, like every 2 weeks or something. And then he eventually went, I don't think I need a man cave. And I was like, okay. But he had the choice. And that's also the place of being an allowance of what someone requires and what they desire, and don't judge it, allow it. Nothing is personal, okay? It's not against you, what they're choosing.
That's such a great line. That's awesome. And on the topic of sharing, there's an entire chapter in here on, is sharing caring? So that can be something, I know for me, I'm very good at talking. So I definitely love that chapter of going, right, this is how you can create a different way to be with a guy when you want to talk all the time. So that one was very helpful for me.
A great tool just for anyone being in a relationship too is ask them questions.
Yeah.
Like, don't sit there and talk about you all the time. It's like, ask them questions. You become one of the most appealing people in the world when you ask them questions. Because people actually desire to talk about themselves, and they desire to, have that, instead of someone coming in going blah 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 about themselves. It's like, that's really boring. It's like, ask someone questions about themselves. Get to know them.
You have a story in the book about a time where you really didn't want to ask Brendon questions, but you did it anyway. I don't know if you remember.
I do remember this story, because I think if this is the one that you're talking about. The house that we had is across the road from the beach in Australia, in Bridging Beach, and I was cranky at Brendon, and I don't even know what for. Like, that's how relevant that piece was. And I went across to the beach, and I'm walking on the beach, and I was like, rah, 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 and Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, rang me happened, timing, perfect timing, you know. And he rang me and she was like, what's up? What's going on? And I was like, blah, 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 you know, about Brendon. And he said, you know what you need to do? And I said, what? He said, you need to go home and you need to make everything about him. I was like, make everything about him? I want him to make everything about me. It's like, how many times do you want the other person to make everything about you? This tool, I didn't want to do it, but I also realized every other Access Consciousness tool I had used worked.
Yes.
So I went, all right, I'll suck it up and I'll go and do this, you know. And so I walked back in the house and I started making everything about him. And in that, it was like just asking him how he was, what's going on for him. It's like, you know, and acknowledging him, acknowledging different things about him, etc. I'm not kidding, within 10 minutes, he was like, honey, what would you like me to cook you for dinner? You know, can I get you a drink? Can I buy? And was making it about me, and I was like, wow, like, this stuff actually really works. It was mind-blowing. So make it about the other person. You walk in and do that tonight, okay? When you go home tonight, it's like, make it about the other person. Don't tell them you're doing it. Like, don't look at I'm going to make this all about you. Yeah, don't give away your secrets. And it's like, or your manipulation skills here. But start making it all about them and see what energy gets created. Okay? Just play with these tools. And there's a lot of tools in this book too that literally is about that play. And if there's a tool, if you get this book and you read it and there's something you resist in it, that's the tool you need to use, okay? That's the tool that will probably create the greatest freedom for you.
I'm loving this. I hope you guys are loving this conversation as much as I am. This is awesome. I'm having
well, it's one of the things, Rebecca, I see is the amount of people who go, oh, I really want a relationship, and they're single. It's like, if you're single, that's what you actually would like to create.
Yeah.
Like, whatever you've created right now, if you're in a relationship, you desire a relationship. If you don't want a relationship, you actually don't want one. So, and people are always like, oh no, you know, I mean, I've had girlfriends who are like, they do everything they can to find the one. I'm going to give you some breaking news tonight. You ready?
Yes.
There is no the one.
What?
Okay? There is no the one. There's some amazing, adorable, awesome people in the world who will be a contribution to you. Please do not wait for, you know, the man to come riding along on the white horse in the knight in shining armor to come and collect you up and save you, okay? There is no the one. And what if we're not meant to mate for life as well? I know I'm in India talking about that, but what if we're not meant to mate for life? It's like, you know, we're not penguins. Okay? We're not a penguin.
And if you don't know, penguins mate for life. I didn't know that before Simone said.
But you know what? They do mate for life, but they're smart because they actually mate, and then the woman will stay there with the eggs until they hatch, but the man goes off for ages. So they've got it down. It's not like they're living in this same area the whole time. It's like, you know, the woman's like, hey, I'm going to look after these eggs. And the man's like, all right, bye. And he goes off for ages to get food, etc. So they have a lot of space between them. I mean, how many times if you're in a relationship have you decided, now we will do everything together? You know, everything. It's like, do you actually want to do everything with somebody else? Start to have a look at how many hours a day would be fun for you to spend with someone. I mean, for me, it's like to spend 1 hour, like a great hour with someone is awesome. But I've got too many other things to create. I've got too many other things to do. So it's like, I'm not looking to spend 24 hours a day with somebody. 1 hour a day, 1 great hour a day is awesome. So have a look at how many hours a day would you actually like to spend with someone. Like, get real about what it is that you're asking for. And that's so much of the tools in the book too, because it's relationship, are you sure you want one? Or do you want to start chopping off your limbs so that you can be like, oh look, now I can be with you because I've cut off parts and pieces of me. Someone's not looking to be in a relationship with someone who's cut off parts and pieces. They might actually find, you know, like you for who you be.
What?
So don't try and be somebody else to be in a relationship. Exactly.
It's like we've heard of something, you know, be you.
Be you, change the world. Another great book by Dr. Dane here.
So as I was cramming your book earlier, because I wanted to remember everything that I read the first time, didn't quite succeed on that, but you had a little thing in the end towards random acts of gratitude. And Brendon said to you, I wish you could see how great you are through my eyes. And I just thought I would bring up that energy for us. And
So you can make me cry.
made me cry. This entire book actually made me cry the first time I read it, but I just thought that what a great energy to have in your relationship.
Yeah, it's like, what if you could, because how often do you judge yourself?
Almost
Like,
all the time.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
how many of you even today woke up and you have this litany of judgments of you and your body, of everything, of the money you have or you don't have, your business, your body, your health, your whatever. It's like your family, your relationships, your sex life, all of it. You've gone into this huge amount of judgment, and you may just be with somebody or choose to be in a relationship with someone who actually, like I said before, likes you for you. So what if you could, like, that's another bit of homework you can do, okay? Is start to look at you through their eyes and see what they see. Because a lot of you may actually be with someone, a friend of mine sitting in the front row, I'm pretty sure that is with someone who doesn't judge them. So look at you through their eyes and see if you start to see something different. What if you stop judging you? That would be a great start. I mean, relationship, are you sure you want one too? We wrote the book too so that you could be in question. That it's not a necessity, it's a choice. Your whole entire life should be a choice. It shouldn't be a necessity. It should be a choice. So ask, okay, is this actually what I desire? Or is there something else I desire? Like I have another friend of mine who, you know, for years went to the wrongness of her for not desiring a relationship. And yet the relationship she has with animals is off the charts. You know, if she could marry a horse or a dog, she would. But now she's really happy. She's got horses, she's got dogs, she's happy creating that as her life. So what are you happy creating as your life? And where are you not allowing yourself to have the choice?
I love this. Towards the beginning, I wrote down this quote too of creating a great relationship requires a level of intimacy that very few people are willing to have, even with themselves, let alone anyone else. And to me, this conversation that we're having now is about intimacy on that deeper level. And I know in this book you talk about intimacy in a different way to what other people talk about what intimacy is.
Yes, we talk about the 5 elements of intimacy, and it's, you know, one of the tools in Access Consciousness. And 5 elements of intimacy is gratitude, honor, trust, vulnerability, and allowance. So what I actually started to do, because the other thing I realized when I was, you know, talking to Gary many years ago about, you know, being in a relationship, so many people look at somebody else to fulfill what they decided they lack. It doesn't actually create a great relationship. Okay? If you're looking to somebody else to fulfill what you've decided you lack, it doesn't create something great. So what if instead you had these 5 elements of intimacy with you first? So what I did, because I think the OCD and, you know, autistic comes out in me, I wrote down on these little post-it notes and I put them on the mirror in my bathroom, and at the end of every day I would look at all of these 5 elements of intimacy, and I'd use the Access Consciousness clearing statement, and I would pock a pod, point of creation, point of destruction, everywhere that I wasn't willing to be these 5 elements of intimacy. So every day, and it wasn't like going into judgment, you know, you aren't an allowance of yourself today, you know, you're bad, you're wrong. No, it was just every day before I went to bed. All right, so destroy and uncreate everywhere that I wasn't willing to be vulnerable with myself.
Yes.
Where I wasn't willing to be trusting with myself. I wasn't willing to be honoring of myself. Wasn't willing to be an allowance of myself, and wasn't willing to be grateful for myself. So I would destroy and uncreate everything that is, right and wrong, good and bad, cock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds, which allows you to come out of all the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, the judgments, the limitations, the conclusions, and I know how much you guys love conclusions over in India. But puts you into questions so that you sort of, you know, have this blank slate, go to bed, wake up in the morning, and then ask to be these 5 elements of intimacy with you. Because if you can be that with yourself, then you can have that with another. But if you're looking to find the answers in somebody else, it's not going to create a relationship that is a huge contribution to you. There'll always be this distance. And the thing is, the word relationship actually means the distance between 2 things. What if we weren't creating the distance between somebody else? What if we made up a word and it's called creationship? And what if you actually asked to have a creationship? And a creationship is the place where you create at least 20 times more with somebody, choosing to be with them, than you would alone. And that's one thing that Brendon and I did really well. It's like in so many different areas.
Yes.
A good friend of mine recently was saying to me, what you guys created in 8 years financially is off the charts. Like, you guys created more in 8 years than most people create in a lifetime. So what we're also looking at is, just because we decide to uncreate the relationship, we're not like destroying the entire thing. We're deconstructing it and looking at it going, okay, so what pieces work here? So, you know, meeting with our accountant, meeting with different, you know, people, and looking at the different investments we have, the trusts, the companies, etc., and looking at what we would still like to contribute with each other and create something even greater. So just because you uncreate a relationship and you break the relationship up, doesn't mean you have to destroy everything either. Okay? There's different choices. I know that what Brendon and I are creating on planet Earth now has never existed. It's like, it is. It's friggin' awesome, and I want to say proud of myself and proud of Brendon as well, because I get that we're sort of we're leading, creating another, you know, pathway to create a different future.
I'm
sure.
very grateful for that. I know that it hasn't always been easy.
No, it's not a bed of roses, as Queen would say. It's been no bed of roses, and yet the moments that haven't been the easiest, I'd say we've got through with ease. Like, there was one time when we, it was just after we chose to break up the relationship, and there's this energy where we were like, you know, not fighting, not arguing, just this separation.
Yeah.
So Brendon said, let's get a bottle of wine, because you need a bottle of wine, get a bottle of wine and go sit out in the veranda. And we were willing to have World War III. We were like, okay, what's going on for you? What's going on for me? And we were willing just to like have this conversation, have a screaming match if necessary, whatever was required. And we sat out in the veranda and drank this bottle of wine and had one of the most intimate, kindest conversations I think we'd ever had. Because what we actually got to as well was how much we cared about each other. And one of the things that we did, and it's a great tool if you are uncreating a relationship, is write down 3 things that you desire from the other person. And it took us a little while to do that. We didn't do that on that night, but it took us a little while to look at it. And Gary gave us the tool, write down 3 things that you desire from each other. And I immediately went, oh, it's going to be things, like who gets the house, who gets this, you know, who gets the dog, you know. And it wasn't. What ended up occurring was, without us looking at each other's list, we didn't cheat. It's like, the top of our list was, we want to remain friends. We want to work on our friendship. And that was the first thing that was on the top of our list. So what if you looked at what it is that you are creating with another person and continue to create that, no matter what, you know, what humps you come across and what you choose. It's an always, and that's the 5 elements of intimacy. It's always a continuous place of still honoring you.
What an amazing conversation. Just quickly before we finish up this conversation, what's in this book for someone that already has a relationship?
Create a greater one. I mean, how many of you, it's sort of like, you know, people who have money in their bank account, and it's like, do you want more money in your bank account? Or have you decided you've got it? Have you decided you've, you know, got the best of everything? What if you never had the best of everything, and what if there was always another possibility available? So there will definitely be tools in this book if you are in a relationship, if you're not in a relationship, if you desire one, if you don't desire one, if you want to break up a relationship, all of it. And it is, like we said before, it's quite confronting, and we tell those stories that it's like, hey, here it is. Because our desire is that you guys also, you know, engage with the book and engage with the tools so that you can have something greater. What if the whole world functioned from creationship and not the judgments and the limitations and conclusions of what relationship is in this reality? What if we could create a different reality? You're going to create your reality with relationship, creationship. What would you choose? And that's what we desire for you to have. All the tools in the world so that you can have a life of ease, joy, and glory. It's like, yay.
Well, guys, thank you so much. Thank you, Simone.
Thank you, Miss Rebecca Hulse.
I've had a lot of fun.
Cool. Thank you, everyone.
So I believe we still have a a few copies up the back, right, Mana and Naina? So if you would like this book and you don't have it, you can have it here. And for all of those that are on Audio Live, you can go to Amazon, you can go to relationship.areyousureyouwantone.com. And I believe Simone's up for signing some books.
I am, and one day we'll have it on audio, but at the moment we don't. You know, we tried to read it one day, and we both just started crying. It was like, all right, maybe we're going to read this book later. So it will come out on audio at some point, but at the moment it's in the book, and it's translated into a few different languages as well. So, which is very awesome.
Exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a question, Ajay?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Do you want to grab the mic though?
We do.
Hello, Mike. Awesome. So I work in a hospital. So there was someone with whom I was in a relationship with. After we decided to end the relationship, we are in the same workplace, in the same hospital. It becomes very awkward to meet the same person after breakup. But how, like when I see you and Brendon, like after you guys have decided to, okay, we change things, still you guys have that honoring for each other, all that. Like, how do you have that same, honor, care for someone with whom I've broken up with?
Yeah, there's a lot in that, and it's still that place of being that 5 elements of intimacy, and it's probably, our PR agent is like, I think that's your second book, is what you're creating with it. And there's definitely times like that, I looked at it and went, well, what would be the easiest thing? Oh, if I didn't see him again. But it's pretty unlikely that occurs a lot of the times. Like we have a lot of, finances together. We have a stepson together. We're in business together. We both, work with Access Consciousness. So that's a priority to me. So if you look at what the priority is, it's like, do you want to create more ease? And then ask them too, what works for them. It's like, and sometimes, like there's a period of time where we weren't as close, but we also required to, I want to say almost like regroup with ourselves. And then we went, okay, so we actually do like each other and we would like to honor each other. So what does that look like? So we've definitely been in question. We're still in question of what that is. I mean, Brendon's in Argentina now. And I was just talking to him like 5 minutes before I came on here. He's doing a class there, I'm doing a class here, and there's a contribution that we still be together. We just didn't decide to be in a relationship. So you got to be in question and ask what's going to work for you and what's going to work for them as well. Like, is creating that separation, is that fun for you, or would you actually like to be even more vulnerable and create something different with them?
So this is so different. Thank you very much.
It is really different.
So because I see in my medical college, so that guys are a guy and girl date. When they are dating, they're so much in love, but after breakup, they block each other.
They hate each other. I know, and it's like
they want to screw each other after breakup, or they just go to a different relationship to prove a point.
Crazy.
That, I've moved on. They date someone else in order to prove a point. Such things happen after they decide to end. But what you're saying is it's a possibility where two humanoids or humans are able to still have honoring and all that.
But you have to choose it. It's like you have to be the one that goes, right, I'm going to create something different here. Because the normal thing in this reality is like what you described. We break up, now we hate each other. It's like, I mean, I think there was Gwyneth Paltrow did a whole thing on unconscious coupling.
Uncoupling.
Sorry, yeah, because we've got conscious we've got unconscious coupling done. No, say it again. Conscious uncoupling. Yeah, easy for me to say after weeks on tour. And Drew Barrymore also spoke about that too when she, was divorced from her husband, and she said everyone looked at them and went, "Yay, look at fairy tale lifestyle. She's finally got this man." She said, "I can see how everyone looked at it and went, yes, this is the most perfect relationship, but then we broke up and everyone thought we hated each other. Why do you remember the bitter? What if you actually, remembered the sweet? You liked this person originally, so why do you have to hate them when you break the relationship up?" So that's a different concept, and it's a different reality, and it's one that I know that myself and Brendon are here to create. So if you want to create that too, then I embrace that. It's like, let's do it. Let's create something different.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
How much time do we have for questions?
We'll take a couple more questions and then we'll... So you got to speak right into the mic. Thank you.
Do we do a relationship or does it just happen?
You create it. Nothing happens to you. Nothing happens to you. You create everything. You create your life as it currently is, so you create it.
So, what do you have to say about when we do a relationship when we are not in a relationship?
When you do a relationship, when you're not in a relationship.
So, when I do a relationship with someone who is actually not in a relationship with me. Yeah.
One-sided.
When it's one-sided with the other person.
It's not a relationship. That's a fantasy. So you might want to come out of fantasy land. It's like, and I see a lot of people do that too. They always strive to be with somebody who doesn't desire to be with them. Okay, you might want to ask a question. What do I love about, desiring to be with this person who doesn't desire to be with me? Oh, maybe that's your reason and justification for not creating a relationship. Okay, you don't want to create a fantasy. Fantasies aren't real. What if you actually started to create what it is that you can in your life? And have a different reality. Okay? Cool.
Simone, you spoke about conscious uncoupling.
I also spoke about unconscious coupling, whichever we've decided everyone's got that down. Yes.
I will say about conscious uncoupling. So, I have read your book and it's phenomenal. And I vouch by all access consciousness tools. What if there is a couple where one is conscious and the other is not choosing? Will conscious uncoupling still work?
Yeah, because it's the same thing as like the 5 elements of intimacy, like we spoke about. One of them is being an allowance. So you don't have to go, I'm an allowance, you should be an allowance. It's not about demanding that of the other person. If you're being that, you become an invitation for someone else to be that. If someone is desiring to, fight and argue with you, but you're not fighting back, they've got nowhere to go. So work on you. This is not about demanding that somebody else uses the tools of access. It's like they might not desire to use the tools. You can still create a great relationship. You can still create a great, destroying and uncreating the relationship if you're breaking it up. You can still do that for you. The tools will still work.
Tools will still work for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm there and there's somebody else. So if I'm being conscious and using the tools, it will work for me. And the other person, if he or she is not using the tools, what will the space be there?
Well, you're trying to look for the conclusion and an answer rather than actually allowing that to show up.
I'm trying to go there before I have even started.
Yeah. Yeah, and how many of you try to go there before you've even started with everything? Knowing that is time to Godzilla, we destroy and uncreate it. Alright, and I'm good and bad, pop and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yes, thank you everyone.
Thank you so much.